Great morning, everyone. There we go. Great morning, great morning, great morning. How are you guys today? Hold on, let's make sure we are nice and live. We are. I love it. I love it. Great morning, guys. How are you feeling today? Welcome. Welcome. Let's turn this down. Welcome. Welcome. Great morning, great afternoon, or great evening, depending upon what time you are watching the replay. What's up to our live viewers? I see y'all hopping on first thing this morning. I see you, Ann. Ann, I want to shout you out and say thank you so much for just, you are sharing. I appreciate you. You are really blessing other people and inviting them. So I know this book is really making a difference for you. And so I'm grateful to have you as part of the community. I see my peeps popping in. What's up, Latasha Mitchell? What's going on? Renee Bryant. I see you. Great morning, Grand Rising. Great morning, everybody. I pray everybody is doing wonderfully this morning. She said, yes, it's blessing me. I love that. I pray you guys had a really great day. Today is a special day in the McGee house. My son graduates today, and I'm really excited about that because this year was definitely challenging. Definitely a challenging one. And so I'm so grateful that we will be celebrating him today. What's up, Eugenia? Great morning, Queen. Thank you for joining us this morning. And I overslept, you guys. I didn't get up until 6:30 this morning. That is severely oversleeping. My alarm on my tablet did not go off. I used a different alarm, and obviously I did something wrong because it did not work. And I was sleeping good, so I overslept this morning. Thank you so much. Thank you for the congratulations, and congratulations to you too, Tasha. I know you have a high school graduate. His prom pictures were absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate it. Happy Wednesday to you. What's up, Jewel? I see you, beautiful. What's going on? All right, y'all, let's hop into today. We are officially on day 18, or not day 18, but secret 18 from Business Secrets of the Bible. We are officially on secret number 18. And let me tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. Part of this chapter was a little challenging for me. Part of it was challenging. And I know you're probably reading, and maybe it wasn't for some of you guys. So you're probably thinking, well, what was challenging about it? I had to get something out of my head so I could actually hear what he was saying. And then I had to go back and read it again because there were parts of it I just was not willing to accept. Okay. So if that happens to you while you're reading this book, I promise you I completely understand. See, when I read books, I don't take them at face value and say, oh, because the author wrote it, it has to be right. Sometimes I'm like, I don't agree with you. I don't. And so if you have any of those moments, question why you don't agree. And then, the Bible is always our litmus test. Right? It's always our litmus test. And so we know that we've all gone through some experiences. We all have, some things in our background, our perspective through which we see the world, and obviously through which we read information. And sometimes that perspective can taint the information. And in this case, for me, I know it did. So I had to read it and then take the perspective, try to remove those lenses and read it again without that lens on. That is very difficult to read things objectively. But I was able to at least pull what he's saying in this chapter. I was able to pull it out, and it still blessed me, even though there's still a part I don't agree with. All right. And I understand that that's because of who I am and what I've learned over the last 10 years or so. But we're going to dig into that. And I know you're like, wait, what? So we're going to dig in, but let's go ahead and let's thank God for another day, you guys, to study this book together. So God, thank you so much for allowing us to see another day on this side of heaven. We do not take it for granted. We do not take it lightly that you breathe breath into our bodies, and that on today, Wednesday, June the 2nd, 2021, we are still alive. We are awake. There is blood pumping through our bodies. God, I'm blessed this morning because I know somebody laid down this morning and didn't get up. But I also have a set of friends who just brought new twins into the world. So, Father, life is coming and yes, life is going. But God, we know you are on the throne and you know what's right and we trust you. So even when we lay down for the night and we lose someone and the next morning we wake up and they're not here, we still trust you. Even when we don't understand what's happening around us, we still trust you. Even when the world shuts down due to COVID, we still trust you. Even when our jobs shut down, we still trust you. And so, Father God, this morning is absolutely no different. For today is the day that you have made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it. God, we know you have purpose left for us because we are here. And so just as we ask every single morning, impart your wisdom, Father. Impart your wisdom. You said that if we ask for it, you'll give it. Solomon asked and you gave it. So as Solomon asked and you made him the wisest among the wise, we ask you this morning, Father God, impart your wisdom in us. For you said it is more precious than rubies. And God, you said when you decree a thing, it shall be established. And so this morning, I decree abundance in the life of those who are under the sound of my voice today, that hear my voice. And I thank you because we know our abundance comes from you. We thank you for your grace and your mercy this morning. We thank you for what you're going to reveal to us. We thank you for your knowledge, your wisdom, and for teaching and guiding us. In Jesus' name we pray today. And our hearts say amen. All right. So under secret number 18, this is what secret 18 is about, y'all. The importance of service is that you cannot lead if you cannot follow. You cannot lead if you cannot follow. And so he came from actually a different way than I anticipated. Most of the times when people say this, they don't mean it the way that he said it. They mean it in a slightly different way. But I really like how he broke this down. And he's just very straightforward. If you can't accept authority, or not if you can't, but you need to learn how to accept authority. Not only do you need to learn how to accept authority, you must learn how to accept it. You must learn how to respect it. You must honor it. So this is one of the challenges that my son had for a very long time. We're still working with him to get him to understand that authority figures are people that you should respect. Even if you don't respect them for who they are, respect them for their position. That is hard for even a lot of adults to understand. To respect someone for their position, even if you don't necessarily respect the person. When you respect someone for their position, that comes with honoring your mother and your father, as the Bible says. You respect them for their position, even if you disagree with what they say. And so you respect them for their position, even if they weren't really around. You respect them for their position, even if you don't really respect the person. And that's what he's talking about today. Being able to respect authority. Now, let's start out well, where I was challenged, okay? And I would love your feedback on this morning. So get ready to start typing on that keyboard or using them thumbs, okay? So he says that the public school system, well, before I go there, he says a major flaw in the United States educational system is that it does not prepare students for the job market or the workplace. I agree with that 150%. I remember when I was in college, I was like, none of this prepared me for an actual career. None of it. None of it. And a lot of us do not work in the field that we studied in. But none of what I did in college prepared me for an actual career. None. Do you hear me? Nothing. It didn't necessarily prepare me to be, it just didn't. It just didn't. Okay, Tasha says facts. She agrees. All right. None of it prepare me. Now, he continues to say, the public school system utterly fails to teach the single most important skill necessary to avoiding poverty, obtaining and retaining a job. Once again, the public school system utterly fails to teach the single most important skill necessary to avoid poverty, obtaining and retaining a job. This is where I completely disagree with him, because I'm not sure that that's what the public school system should be about. That is what the public school system is for. I believe that the single most important skill necessary to avoid poverty is financial literacy. That is what I believe. I believe it is learning what to do with your money, how money works, how to use it, because really, y'all, as Eugenia said, and nothing related to financial literacy, because it's really about, now that we are truly digging in and learning, the overwhelming majority of people really believe that it is because they don't make enough money that they struggle. And that is not true. For the overwhelming majority of people, it is because they don't know what to do with the money that is coming in their house that they struggle. That is the challenge for the overwhelming majority of people. And for the overwhelming majority of people, they look at Instagram, they look at Facebook, they look at Snapchat and other social media networks that I don't know the name. They look at, and by the time you watch this replay, there may be a host of different ones. They look at television. They're trying to keep up with the Kardashians and they can barely pay the bills in their house. That is the majority of the issue. It is not just obtaining and retaining a job. So I don't know if I agree. And because I don't agree, you guys, that was a significant challenge for me to look at this part of this book and be like, oh, yeah. I think the overwhelming majority of the challenge is the fact that people don't have financial literacy. That's what I think the problem is. True story. So I'm going to do a bonus training real quick. Let me see if I still have those things on my computer. I did a training this past weekend, you guys, and people found it helpful. So I'm going to share this with you guys really quick because this is important. I think one of the biggest problems in our society is that we don't teach people where they're supposed to put their money. And so there's this thing where, you guys, really, the book Rich Dad Poor Dad is a great book. I'm sorry, my nose is itching like crazy. It's that allergy season, you guys. Forgive me. And so, and I need to take some Benadryl, but I'm itching, and I can't because it's just going to put me to sleep. Okay. So I'm sorry I'm itching on camera so much, but I'm having a little thing here. Okay, so my challenge is that there are classes in the United States. We know that there is the poor. We know, and the Bible tells us that the poor will always be among us. We know we have the poor. We know we have the middle class, and we know we have wealthy people. We know we have those three, right? What happens when it comes to money is it flows into people's home very differently, okay? So if we think about what cash flow looks like, it really is about knowing where to put your money, knowing what's supposed to happen with it, okay? I'm gonna make it make sense in a minute. So you have something called assets and you have liabilities. Assets and liabilities. Well, the difference between the two of those things is this. An asset puts money in your pocket while a liability takes money out of your pocket. That is an oversimplified definition, but it is a definition nonetheless. Assets put money in your pocket, liabilities take money out of your pocket. Well, what happens with a lot of us is that when we are really struggling, so you got like a college student, right? They have no money. They like we could think about the average college student. They got nothing extra. They really are living that poor life, but their parents are still taking care of them, right? So what it looks like for them and what it looks like for a person who's in a situation similar to theirs is it looks like this. Their cash flows literally. Hold on. I can't see the statement you guys are looking at. There we go. All right. It looks like this. Okay. Cash flows into their home, whether it be a job, whatever it is, a side hustle, whatever it is, it comes in and it goes out through expenses. So they pay things like taxes, rent, they got to eat, they got to get back and forth to work. And then they always, they got to have something to wear. That is what the cash flow looks like for a poor person who just does not have a lot of money, and a poor person doesn't know what to do with their money. So it comes in their house and it flows out through expenses. Where are these pages from, you might be wondering? These pages are actually pictures I took of some pages in the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Amazing, amazing book. I read it when I was in my 20s, but I'm actually reading it again. Man. So good. All right. So money comes in and it goes right out through expenses. So that, you guys, that is what the cash flow looks like for a totally broke person. As Tasha says, my broke best friend, that's what cash flow looks like for them. It flows in and out through expenses, right? Now, when you start to get to what's known as the middle class, you know, this is for our individuals who they're doing a little bit better. They're making a little more money. They've been able to maybe get a mortgage for a home. They have a car. They may have some credit cards. For a lot of us, there's student loan debt. And so we have these things. And so what a lot of us don't understand is the difference between an asset and a liability. Y'all, this is powerful. This is powerful. We don't know the difference between an asset and a liability. Remember, assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money out of your pocket. So what happens is we view our home as our biggest asset. But I challenge you, just like Robert Kiyosaki challenges you, and I say, listen, is your mortgage putting money in your pocket, or is your mortgage taking money out of your pocket? The reality for a lot of people is your mortgage is taking money out of your pocket. So what does that mean? You guys, that means it's a liability. It's not rental income. It's not real estate income. So what it is a liability. It is not putting money in your pocket. In fact, for most people, it's the biggest expense, biggest liability they have. The biggest ones are there, what he has on his sheet, your mortgage, your car loans, credit card, and student loans. And so what happens for a middle class person who's doing better, bringing more money in, is they get their job, their income coming from their salary. When they get their income, it goes straight to their liabilities, and then they still got expenses. We all have expenses. We got taxes. Now we got an additional expense. Then our poor counterparts, because they don't have to pay property taxes. Okay. So now we got taxes. We got to take care of the mortgage payment, the car note, our credit card payment, our student loan payment, any utilities in our home, any additional, luxuries that we've spent money on. This is what cash flow looks like for a middle class person. And this is what a lot of us know. And this is what a lot of us are taught. This is what a wealthy person is taught. And this is what we are not taught in school. And this is why I disagree with the rabbi that the most important thing that we learn is obtaining and retaining a job. I don't think that's the most important. Now, is it important? Absolutely, because not everybody's going to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody's going to have their own business. And there is nothing wrong with having a job. Absolutely nothing. But this is a cash flow for a wealthy person. Okay? Wealthy, y'all ready? It looks completely different. This is what it looks like. Wealthy people understand the difference between assets and liabilities. And so they spend a lot of time building up their asset column. They find a way to put money aside every single time they get paid. Like, they may start with a job, okay, but they find a way to take some of that money and put it aside. What does it look like? They find a way to put it in real estate. They find a way to put some money aside in investments. Okay. So the one thing he doesn't have on here, because when he wrote this book, now he is a believer in cryptocurrency, right? But when he wrote this book, crypto didn't exist. So he talks about stocks, bonds, and notes. And then we also have things like cryptocurrencies. Where else can you put money where it makes money for you? He talks about intellectual property. What does he mean when he says intellectual property? That's things like books that we write. This is intellectual property. This came out of Rabbi Lapin's mind and spirit, and he wrote it down on the pages of this book, intellectual property. Intellectual property can be some of your artistic things that you have done, because it comes from your intellect, your mind, and it's something that you can now sell, because now it's an asset. That's when I do master classes, when I have digital assets that I have created. I've created so many master classes that still sell. One of the ones that sells still quite a bit is where I teach people how to get an LLC if you live in Illinois. That's an example of a masterclass that I did a year ago that still sells really well today. The book that I wrote, my first book, it still sells, Intellectual Property. So what wealthy people understand is that they have to take some time to build up this asset column. And guess what they do? They get paid from their asset column. That's what they do. One of my mentors yesterday, he dropped in our wealth community, in our leadership chat, he shared some places where, because this is a thing. Let me start with this. This is a thing. There are people that actually get paid off of, or they live off of the interest of their investments. You guys, that's big. Imagine having investment accounts to the point that you can live off the interest of them. Imagine being able to learn how to get your money working for them, that or working for you. That is why we're so big on cryptocurrencies and foreign exchange. That is why, because it is a way for you to get your money working for you. That is why somebody like a Warren Buffett has spent his life understanding the stock market, because his money is working for him. He's not working for money. That's what wealthy people do that's really different. So I challenge Rabbi Lapin on this, and I say, listen, is it not that we need financial literacy and to understand how money works? Perhaps that's one of the biggest things that we fail to teach our children. So when you have your assets and you get income from your assets, you still got liabilities. Yeah, you still have some place to live. You still have expenses. Yes, I get that. But your assets supersede all of those because they are sustaining your lifestyle. When your asset column gets to the size and the point that it can sustain your lifestyle, now you are literally in the land of the wealthy. Because now your money is working for you. You are no longer working for it. Y'all feel me on that? Let me get some feedback. I know you're quiet, and I know you're quiet because you're looking, but I would love to get your feedback on that really quick. So for some people, I know you've never seen this before, right? And in that case, I'm going to tell you, you need to pick up Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Really great book. You can even listen to it on YouTube or Audible. Really great book. Really, really good. Okay. And this is the start of the information we need to obtain wealth. This is what we need. You need to know what to do with the money that's coming in your house. Because if every single dime of your money is going to liabilities and expenses, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You will never build an asset column. Now, when people say pay yourself first, a lot of the time we're like, we can't pay ourselves first. By the time we get ready to pay ourselves, we don't have nothing left over. Do you realize? I'm not telling you not to take care of your obligations. I'm not telling you that. What I'm telling you is you must pay yourself first until you get to the point that your assets outweigh your liabilities. You must. You got to take 10% aside. If you got $1,000 coming in the next week, you need to take 100 and put it aside into an asset column. If you don't know what asset to put it in, then you know what you do? You sit it to the side while you learn, where do I need to put this money where it can grow for me? You sit it aside and you don't touch it. And now it's your responsibility to get educated on assets. That is so important. And you continue doing that. That is why this time last year, my husband and I were not doing as well financially as we are this year. Yesterday, we have some liquid capital, right? And I needed to move some liquid capital around because we had some expenses that we needed to take care of. So I moved some things around so we could actually have access to capital that we've been putting aside for quite some time. Our cryptocurrency portfolio is up over 500%, and it's just June. Okay. I couldn't do that in a bank. I couldn't do it. At a bank, that means that I could put $1,000 there, leave it for a year, and our bank offers 1.5% APR. And I know for a lot of people that's high because your bank doesn't even give 1%, but that means my $1,000 is going to earn $15. Yet my crypto portfolio has increased 500%. You guys, you got to learn where to put money so money can actually work for you. That is the beginning of the increasing your financial IQ so you can transition from the poor or the middle class to the wealthy, where money is not an issue for you anymore. Okay, bonus training. Now let's get back to the book. So one of the things when he says the single most important skill necessary to avoid poverty, I don't necessarily agree that it's obtaining and retaining a job. I believe it is increasing our financial IQ. I think it is us knowing what to do with money when that money comes in. Do these things partner and pair well together? Abso-freaking-lutely. But I don't think you can have one without the other, because having one without the other is why a lot of people are still broke, but they're broke at a higher level. So you're looking at people like, oh my God, but they make so much money. I don't care. They still don't have any wealth. None. Together, me and my husband made over 6 figures. We still didn't have any wealth. So it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how much money they have coming in. It really is about what they are doing with the money as it comes into their home. That, my friend, is more powerful than everything. Okay. Now he says we do not teach our children how to take orders. Instead, we nurture their independence and self-esteem. We make sure they feel good about themselves. We remind them how special and unique they are. But we forget to impart the one quality that employers most want to see in job applicants, and that is a will-do spirit. So, while I think it is important, obviously, because see, I come from an entrepreneur's mindset. As an entrepreneur, I don't want my children to go to school and become a cookie cutter of everybody else. That is not what I want. I want them to have a higher self-esteem. I want them to learn independence and still interdependence as well. But I don't want them to be like everybody else in their class. He is coming from the perspective of, if you want to be a good employee, the reality is you got to learn those skills. And that's what he's talking about. We see things completely differently. See, I'm teaching my kids to be like Rabbi Lapin. I'm teaching my kids to be the ones that are employing others. That's what I'm teaching my children. And guess what? As somebody that employs others, I don't need to be, I want to be unique, because that is a unique person. However, if I'm the employer, what do I want? I want a bunch of people who know how to take orders. Y'all feel me? That is where I was like, okay, I feel what you're saying. I understand you. I hear you. But I'm not with you, Rabbi Lapin, because it's a fundamental difference in philosophy that we have here. I'm coming from an entrepreneur's perspective. He's talking about what you need to be a good employee. I'm teaching my children not to be employees. So it's a little challenging, but I understand his perspective in this book. Now, once I was able to let go of my little attitude that I had with him, then I could go back and I could read this chapter again based upon the content of the chapter, and not be so bothered by the fact that he wants everybody to be subservient to their boss. Okay. And I'm not going to lie. The Black person in this country, I struggle with that. I'm working on it though. I'm working on it. I'm just saying. All right. So there were several things. It was so funny because in one point he said the culture of students addressing their teachers as sir and ma'am that was so entrenched decades ago was gone. I literally realize that one of the things that I do is I refer to a lot of people as sir. I refer to a lot of people as ma'am. I just do it respectfully, but I can't imagine being required to do so. I can't imagine not necessarily being required to do so, if that makes sense. And so I got a little question mark right there, but it is something that I do teach my children. But is it required? No. Because see, I am my dad's daughter. You guys, my dad grew up in an era where Black people had to say yes, sir, and no, ma'am, and all this to all white people. And so the way that my dad would get out of doing that is he'd do something like, if your name was Mr. Wilson, instead of saying no, sir, he'd say no, Mr. Wilson. Instead of saying yes, sir, he'd say yes, Mr. Wilson. And so I still have, and I realize that that is still part of who I am. And so I cannot look at everything through the perspective of race. And as I'm trying to cleanse myself of that and asking God to heal me from that, because as I get older, I've noticed that it makes me more annoyed. And so I'm asking God to heal me through that, so it doesn't affect relationships that I build in the future. And so I don't teach my children incorrectly. And so when I read a chapter by Rabbi Daniel Lapin, I'm not like, no, my people not telling nobody yes, sir, no more. So, yes. All right. So it is about respect. Okay. So now let's backtrack. Now that I've given all this perspective, now let's talk about what he's really saying. What Rabbi Lapin is really saying is that respect for authority has been lost. It is not taught in schools. It's not taught how to be a good employee. It's not taught how to take orders graciously and gracefully. That isn't taught. And he says that that is a challenge. He said, listen, employers are not looking for the person who on their resume put that they played bocce and basketball and ran track all at the same time. They're looking for the person who said they ran track, they played bocce, they played basketball, and they held down a part-time job. Because what happens when you say, I can hold down a part-time job while I'm doing this, what happens here is that now you're saying, I know how to be an employee. And to know how to be an employee means you know how to take the orders that they give. You know how to do that. In addition to understanding how to take the instruction that they give, you know how to be respectful of customers. So you know how to understand how to serve customers. And serve, y'all, the definition of serve just means to help. It's when you put yourself in a position to help someone. So you know how to help customers. You know how to help your boss. That's important to you. You understand all those pieces. He says what employers are really looking for in a good job candidate is the right raw material, good character. Most employers are willing to train you if you can show you have the right attitude. You know why? Because most of what we learn in school is not what we need on the job. It's so true. Right? If you have the right attitude, they can mold you into what they need. No one wants to try to mold someone with the bad attitude. You can't do it. Tawana said, I'm sorry. I can feel it. But I do not like that Mr. and Mrs. stuff being required to authority figures. A clean cut yes, no will suffice just as well. It's a personal preference. Absolutely. I don't even have an issue with you saying it at all. I don't. Angela said, learning to follow in order to lead humbles you. Humility attracts, and pride is the wrong form and repels. That is so very true. So the question that I would have, this is what I would have, because I literally had to look at my motivation, Tawana, and say, why do I have a problem with it? Because I know what my issue is. I know that I have a problem with it because, honestly, for me, it's a race thing. It's a race thing. I don't even like the idea of having to teaching my children or having to tell someone, sir, ma'am. Like, I don't even like the idea of it because of our history in this country, right? So I'm cognizant of it. True story. I'm cognizant of it. If it's another Black person, I'm just being totally honest with you guys. We all working from someplace. If it's like a Black family or something like that, or if I know the person and I know they are 100% respectful, I don't have any issue saying Mr. or Mr. Sir, ma'am. None at all. In fact, I say it all the time. I say it to people my age all the time. Okay? But if I feel there is a hint, just a hint of arrogance, I won't do it. Is that the right thing to do? I don't think so. Probably not. Because a person's attitude should not affect how I treat them. It should not. The Bible tells us we don't treat people a certain way based upon the way they treat us. We're supposed to treat people a specific way, period. That's just, we got to use the Bible as the litmus test. That's what we have to use. And so if I'm making sure that I'm being respectful, that's what's important. And it is very true. Humility, y'all, that's a fruit of the Spirit. And that's not an easy thing to do. Humility is not easy. Staying humble is not always easy for people. We know that it's a character trait that's important to God, but it's just not always very easy. And with that being the case, is it something that He requires? Is it something that He says we should do? The Bible is the litmus test. That's what I use. That is where I look and I say, okay, what am I doing? Is it the right thing? Is it the wrong thing? And I'm still growing through that. I am honest enough and authentic enough to tell y'all the truth. I'm growing through that. I notice as I get older, I notice that race relations really piss me off. And I do not, as I get older, because I know how respectful I am, but I also know that I merit and deserve respect as well. I also know that. So as I get older and I look at this race relations in our country, being required to say ma'am, sir, Mr., Mrs., I'm not sure I agree with that because of our history. But does it hurt me to say it? It doesn't. It doesn't. I know we've gotten so far off topic. Hey, Lana, that's Lana that said truth in the comments. So let me get back to the topic because we could talk about that, you guys, for so very long. And I understand. I get it. It's an emotional thing. But what we got to look at is what is it that causes us to feel that way? And so do we want to validate it, or is it something that we can adjust because it's not coming from the right place? That is all. And that is very helpful. So I knew where mine was coming from. I'm like, I know this not from the right place. God, keep working on me, Jesus, please. So I knew that part. So another thing that he talks about, he said that, and I found this interesting, okay? Very interesting. He said another thing our schools teach students is that they must have tolerance for all views, okay? They teach children that all opinions are equally valid, but this is simply not true. When you work for someone, be they an employer or a customer, your view is not as valid or important as theirs, period. If your view is as valid as your boss's, why should you listen to them? Okay. I wrote next to that. Can y'all see that? Interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. Immediately, it rubs me the wrong way. Okay. Like, why is your opinion not as valid? Why should we not look at all viewpoints? I feel like that's one of the challenges in our culture, as in the U.S. culture and our Western culture, is our intolerance. And I think our intolerance for other cultures and other people, it is because we've come to say that all opinions are not equally valid. Listen, I see things because I have this perspective, this lens of being an African American woman in this country. And I've seen our voices not be validated. I've seen places where what we say is not as important. I've seen places where our male figures are just, where they just make us look awful in so many ways. And I've seen people look at us and believe, or look at us and think that our opinions are not as important. So I cannot agree with Rabbi Lapin here. I just can't, because I've been the person in a room that just because I was a Black woman, my opinion wasn't as valid. So no, I can't agree with that. However, in the respect that he is talking about employer and employee, he is saying that the employer's perspective is the most important perspective. I get that. Okay? I get that. Would I want my children to grow up in a school system that tells them or teaches them that their opinions are not equal? Absolutely not. This is part of the challenge that we've been in this country in a long time. They've taught us in a lot of cases, and it's reinforced all the time, that Black people's opinions are not important. What they feel is not important. And that's just not freaking true. Everybody's opinion is important. In fact, the more you can find yourself in a position where you're getting so many different perspectives, the wiser and more educated you will be in a lot of cases. Because when we start to incorporate other cultures, we start to learn things that we honestly had no clue even existed. True story, right? We would have had no clue it existed if we did not incorporate other cultures into the conversation. So no, I am not in agreement that our children should not learn that we need to see all views and all perspectives, because I believe that we do. I do believe that that's important within reason. But I do understand where he's coming from when it comes to employer and also employee. Okay, I do understand that dynamic. Eugenia has shared something with us. She says, I thought it was interesting also because even with the teams I lead, I know that I will not have the best information and need my people to bring their ideas to the table. You can only do that with an open mind and open discussions. At the end, though, I own the decision, but I do it based on my team coming together and sharing their views. Thank you. Because that is actually, I'm still here. That is actually, I want you guys to see it, my perspective. I think as a leader, I think as an employer, you should actually get your employees involved in part of the decision-making process. The more buy-in they have, the more successful it will be. And guess what? The more they will support it, which is exactly what Eugenia is sharing. Maybe you should have wrote this section of the book. He says that ancient Jewish wisdom shows us that the only route to wealth is in serving other human beings. Now we're getting into a part where I can work with it a little bit. Once we got through the part that I find insanely controversial, at least it was for me, now we're into the part that I can deal with. Now remember, service means to help. Okay, so he says that ancient Jewish wisdom teaches the only route to wealth is when you help and serve other human beings. Okay. People are not going to voluntarily part with their money and give it to you unless you've done something for them. Therefore, earning money is always an act of service. This is true of employees, this is true of employees, and it is true of business owners too, because everyone in business has customers to serve. Remember, an employee has one customer, one client, and that is their employer. So that is why everything in this book also includes an employee perspective. All right. Instead of serving the customer. Oh, this I thought was really, really good. Okay. When, he talks about how a retailer has to understand that a customer really is their boss. The store clerk needs to understand that the customer really is their boss. Okay. Meaning that they are in authority in that situation because that's who we're serving. So if we think of them, not a lot of us have a negative connotation with the word boss. So think of the customer as the ultimate person that you're serving. He uses an example of saying we've all been in a store where the store clerk looks irritated with us, and we've all been in that store, in that situation where they're irritated that we're there, and we're like, how are we a nuisance to you? Like, if it weren't for us, the business wouldn't be here. Like, what's happening here? And so I thought this was really good. Instead of serving the customer, some salespeople view their customers as nuisances, right? How many times have you gone into a store and they're irritated that you're there? They don't want to help. That happens all the time. Now, I'm going to switch this to business. You guys, I did not expect to be in network marketing again. As a Christian women's business coach, I was really enjoying my life of coaching without doing network marketing. I had been relatively successful in network marketing. And so when I launched my Christian coaching company, I was really comfortable with being a business coach. I was growing. And the reality is, the year the pandemic hit, you guys, we were scaling up and I was so excited. I know for a fact that would have been our first 6-figure year. We had finally got some systems in place and gotten some things together and some things right. Then the pandemic hit and everything got shattered. So when my husband got curious about a concept, and we actually enrolled in a network marketing company that literally just pairs so perfectly with what I do as a coach already. Once again, here I am back into the field of network marketing. Right now, what's so interesting about this stint, I am having a ball. I'm having so much fun. I'm having fun presenting the information, fun developing my teammates, fun developing our leaders, fun getting developed. I'm loving the entire process and having such a good time doing it. The difference is this time we come from that viewpoint of service versus that viewpoint of what can you do for me? Okay. In my past life, even though we had, some relative success in network marketing, I still was not a servant. I did not serve well. And so I remember thinking things like being annoyed sometimes, with teammates, being annoyed that people may need help with some things. Like, I don't have time to do that. Can't they just look it up? Can't they just do this? And now that is not my attitude at all. My attitude now is literally, how can we service our current organization? How can we help them get whatever it is that they signed up for? Whatever you enrolled for, how can we help you get it? How can we get you on the track to doing that? And because that is now our come from, because that is now what I'm focused on, I'm having so much fun building this business. Like, it's insane how much fun I'm having. It's insane how much I'm enjoying the people. It's insane how much I'm enjoying my teammates. So it's truly servant leadership at a level that I've never done servant leadership before. And quite simply, that's just a leadership philosophy where the goal is to serve your customer, your client, whoever your audience is. That's the goal, versus traditional leadership where your goal is just to really help the company or your organization thrive. See, in my previous network marketing company, I was using traditional leadership. My goal was to get our business to thrive. My goal was to get our organization to thrive. That was it. Now, my goal is servant leadership, because I know that when I serve our team enough, guess what? Our business will thrive. I know that that's going to happen. They work like this. When you serve your team, when you serve your customers, when you serve your clients, when you serve whoever, your employees, when you serve, your business will thrive, because it creates this camaraderie. It creates this community. It creates this atmosphere that's just insanely beautiful. What is it that made me fall in love with the wealth community that I'm a part of now? What is it that made me fall in love with this team, this business, this concept? Well, I forgot. I spent years pouring into people. I spent years serving over and over and over as a business coach, trying to look for more ways to just give, give, give. And immediately upon joining this company, people were serving me. I had forgotten what that felt like. Completely forgot. You like to be taken care of. You like it when people service you. Just this past weekend when I went to get fitted for running shoes. So I go to the store, a store that was recommended. I go there, I sit down, and I was like, oh, I need to buy some socks because I had on shoes with no socks. So it's like, I need to buy some socks. And he was like, okay, here you go. So he gives me some socks off the wall. So he gives me a pair. I was like, yeah, I'll buy those. No worries. So then he goes, he fits me for shoes. It's a process. It was actually a pretty cool process. I didn't know it entailed all that it entailed. So then he goes and he gets three different pair for us to start with, this to try. And so as I'm about to put the shoe on, he sits down, takes the shoe out, he pulls it apart, and he reaches for my foot to put it in the shoe. You guys, I'm not sure how many years it's been since somebody actually put my foot in a shoe like that. So then he did both, and I walked around in them. And so I'm about to sit down and take them off, and then I forget, oh, he's doing that too. So I put my foot up, he unlaces them, he loosens the laces so I can just pull my foot right out. He holds the shoe firmly, I pull my foot out. And then we do the same thing with the next shoe, pull my foot out. And then he puts those in the box. How did those feel? We have a conversation about it. Then he gets to the next pair of shoes. Okay, so this is the difference between those. He explains some things. And then does the same thing. Unlaces the shoe, widens it so I can put my foot in, and helps me ease my foot into the shoe. It's been so long since I have had an experience like that it was incredible. Service to the max. Do you hear me? I mean, it was incredible how amazing his service was. So at the end, I ended up buying some more socks, and I was like, wait, I need to take care of these too. He was like, no, you can have those socks. It's okay. I'm giving you those. Well, thank you. I mean, just service after service after service. So we all love when someone serves us. It's part of what held me in this company. It sucked me in when I first enrolled in this network marketing company that I'm a part of. It was the service. It just right in. I was like, man, I forgot what this felt like. I didn't know I needed it. This is so refreshing. And what it does is it fills my cup so I can continue to fill others' cup. We all love the idea of getting served. The question is, can you do it? Can you focus on helping other people the way you want people to help you? If you can do that, and you can have that humility that Angela talked about, it attracts people. I thought it was so beautiful. She said it so perfectly. She said, listen, learning to follow in order to lead humbles you. Humility attracts, while pride is in the wrong form repels. That is such a beautiful way to put it, because it's very, very true. Okay. So how can you be of service? How can you help? Service to others, you guys, it never ends. No matter how high up you get in your company, you must still embrace that concept. I love the fact that Eugenia said that, listen, she literally gets the best information from her people. She brings their ideas, brings them to the table so they can share their ideas. Ultimately, she knows the decision falls on her, but it is through the discussions that she has with her teammates that she's able to make even better decisions because they've shared their viewpoint. She is literally serving her team. She's making them feel like part of the process. She is literally serving them. So he says that in Judaism, arrogance is seen as the ultimate wrongdoing. Displaying arrogance insinuates that you are the most important person in the whole world. You are not. God is more important than you, and serving others is more important than you are. Everyone else you meet is somebody whom you have the opportunity to serve. You should view this as an opportunity to serve, not as a shackle. And I want to change the word serve to help. So think of this. Everyone else you meet is somebody whom you have the opportunity to help. You guys, that's powerful. You know how in scripture it tells us to do things as if we're doing it unto God? You know how it tells us that? Imagine what that could look like. To help others as if we're helping God himself. To serve his children as if we're serving him himself. That's amazing. Okay. He gives us an example of the commandment, the fifth commandment of honoring your mother and your father. We know in a lot of cases that's hard for a lot of people because we've had absentee parents. And so it's very challenging for some people to honor their mothers and fathers, right? It's about positional leadership, not about whether or not they deserve it and deserve the respect. It's positional. Okay. And so he says that what our children model, they model our behavior. What they see is how we treat our parents. Are we impatient with our parents as they get older? How many people get impatient with elderly people? It happens all the time. Are we impatient with our parents, or do we enjoy them if we are still blessed to have them? Because I know not everyone does. And so are we impatient with them, or do we honor them? Do we respect them? Do we treat them tenderly? Do we love on them the best we can? Because see, our children are watching, and what's going to happen is they're going to do us the same way. The same way. And he says, your children will learn to treat you the same way you're treating your parents. They will learn to serve others as well, and they will prosper for it. Teaching our children to help others, to serve others, to respect authority is powerful. We are putting them in a position to win. I was talking to my son about his network, and I told him, I said, listen, because he hears us talking all the time. He's around us all the time. They are literally learning business through us. And I told him, I said, listen, you can't treat your friends any kind of way. It's really important that you honor your friendships and you honor your network. I said the most wealthy people in the world had the biggest lucrative networks. And he said, I noticed that a lot of people that have, really big money, they got really big circles of friends. I said, yes, they do, but they know how to navigate those circles. So it's really important to you, or really important for you, to ensure that you nurture your friendships and you nurture your network, because you never know when you're going to have to pull upon that network. And you need to start doing that now. So as you create friends, treat your friends good, build good relationships. We were having that whole conversation. Listen, now you got to start teaching your kids, even if they're older, you're learning it now, start teaching them now. Listen, you got to learn to serve. Maybe I wasn't the best role model before, but let me tell you what I'm learning. You got to learn to serve. All right. I always tell my children, my father told me this, and he was right. My father is a wise man. And I remember him telling me, if you are likable in class, you will go farther. You go farther if you're likable. He said there are chances, and this is very difficult for some people to understand, especially if you have found yourself in a situation where you're like, well, that's not fair. It may not be fair, you guys, but it is a fact. If you are likable, it will go so much farther for you. So, for example, my son struggled this year. The last half of the school year, it was so challenging, right? So I have to reach out to his teachers. He did literally a quarter's worth of science in 2 weeks. A quarter's worth of assignments for his science class, basically for like all his classes. And so as I'm talking to a science teacher, and I told her, I was like, you know what? We're almost done. I appreciate everything that you have done. But I noticed when you input the last set of grades that even though he did really, really well, his grade went down. So if something's kind of off, do you mind reviewing it for me? And I would really appreciate it. And she was like, no, I don't mind at all. And she said, I really like Jalen. He is so respectful and he is such a good kid. I've been telling my son, listen, you got to make sure you do the work, but you also need to be likable. That is not, I remember stuff like that used to irritate my sister. Okay. And it would irritate my sister because that wasn't something that was important to her, being likable. And I get that. And so you may be a person that is watching and you're thinking, that's not important to me. It should be important to you, especially if you're in business, because people do business with who? People they know, they like, and they trust. Okay. You want to put yourself in a position to be likable. Likable. It will take you so far in business, and it will take you so far in life. People will give you a break because they like you. People will give you a break because you make them feel good. Your presence around them makes them feel better. So you being there with a positive attitude makes them feel better. They'll give you a break because of that. There's going to be somebody that doesn't like you because you're positive, because they're negative and you don't attract negative people. You repel them, so they're irritated by your positivity. That's okay. They're not in a position of authority to really do much for you. And the reality is, if they are in a position of authority, guess who's in authority over them? That would be God. You still got no worries. Okay? You still got no worries. And so being likable is such an important thing. All right? So teach your children how to network, and how important their network is, so to treat people well. Teach your children to be likable. Teach your children to serve. If your children are older, teach your grandkids. There's always somebody to mentor, which leads us to the very end of our chapter. He says, as children, we had our parents to thank as our mentors, but adults need mentors too. Successful business professionals always seek out mentors, people from which they can learn. And later, when you climb to positions of leadership, which you will, in time, you absolutely will, you too should be a mentor to others. True leadership means showing others your ability to be subservient to higher powers. Just as you set a good example for your children, you should also set a good example for your partners, your colleagues, and your employees. All right. So let's see, you guys drop some comments in here really fast. Here, let's start with this one. Angela said, I've been on my job 42 years. I used to hate it. 15 years ago, I had a change of mindset to serve. I fell in love with what I do. I'm retiring in a year. That is such a beautiful perspective. And you know what's interesting? She says she fell in love with what she does. Remember that chapter? Y'all? That we love those whom we help more than those who help us. She had a change of mindset. She changed it to serving, helping, and now she loves what she does. Oh my God. You are literally validating what we're learning, and I love it. Tawana says that it's very important. I think that's what we're talking about, being likable. I'm not sure who this is, but she says, I think people frown on being likable because they confuse that with people pleasing. When in fact, it's just about being a pleasant person. Oh my God, that is so good. That is so good. I like it. Okay. Eugenia said, I think it's worth it. My older children were able to get their first jobs because they were respectful. It was interesting to hear from their bosses too. Also, that they shared, it's rare to see that anymore today. Y'all, that is so good. That is so good. Well, you guys, that is it for secret number 18. We are moving on to secret 19. You guys, we are halfway through this book. We're almost there. It is just June the 2nd, and we're halfway through. We'll be done this month. So I'm praying that this book is blessing you, because, man, I know it is certainly blessing me. Secret 19 says vision is necessary. Sharing that vision is not always necessary. That's going to be a good one. All right. So thank you so much for joining me this morning. Remember, if you want to be a part of our discussion on Friday, I need you to let me know. Okay. And I'm looking forward to that if that's something that you guys want to do. Have a beautiful, just an absolutely wonderful hump day. It's Wednesday. I will see you right back here at 7 a.m. tomorrow, Central Standard Time, 8 a.m. Eastern. I appreciate you. I love you. And I will see you guys